You know, if you've ever owned a houseplant, you have definitely had that moment of pure panic. You look over and your favorite green friend is, well, it's turning yellow. And you think, what did I do wrong? Well, today we're going to play detective and solve this very mystery, using the amazing collective wisdom of an online plant clinic to crack the case of the yellowing pothos.
So, our case kicks off with this exact plea for help from the Our Plant Clinic forum. A user's golden pothos, a plant that's famous for being like nearly indestructible, is suddenly losing its leaves. This is a classic whodunit, but for houseplants.
Okay, let's look at the evidence, the case file, if you will. We've got our golden pothos, and the symptom is yellowing leaves that are just falling right off. Now for the key facts, it's sitting right up against a window during a Canadian winter, and it's being watered once a week. Every single one of these details is an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle, as our online detectives are about to show us.
When it comes to yellow leaves, the plant community almost always points to one prime suspect first. It is by far the most common mistake made by well-meaning, caring, but maybe just a little too eager plant owners.
And boom, there it is. Our first expert witness, a user named Pitties and Kitties, immediately zeroes in on overwatering. And they give us this critical piece of context. In the winter, their own plant sometimes goes 3 weeks without a drink. Now that is our first major clue that the seasons change everything. And the course of agreement just builds from there. Another user chimes in, reinforcing the theory and tying it directly to the season. The key advice here isn't just water less. It's to actually check if the soil is dry before you even think about watering again. This whole thing is a shift from a rigid schedule to what the plant actually needs. This comment right here really nails it. A strict, once-a-week watering schedule can literally be a death sentence for a plant in the winter. The advice is crystal clear. Throw out the calendar. Your plant has no idea it's watering day. It only knows if it's thirsty or not. So, okay, but why is this such a big deal? Well, think of it this way. In the summer, with tons of light and warmth, your plant is in active growth mode. It's basically running a marathon every day, so it's thirsty. But in the winter, with less light, growth slows way, way down. The plant is essentially hibernating. Giving it the same amount of water is like trying to force feed a sleeping bear. It just can't use it. So the case seems pretty open and shut, right? It's overwatering. But this is where the investigation takes a really fascinating turn. The detectives realized that the water wasn't acting alone. Oh no. There was an accomplice hiding in plain sight.
And here it is, the aha moment of the whole case. Remember, the plant is right against a window in Canada, in the middle of winter. That window is cold, and a cold plant, as user Scissors Grinder brilliantly explains, just slows down all of its functions. It physically can't absorb water through its roots, even if the soil is soaking wet. So the plant isn't just being overwatered, it's being chilled to the point where it can't drink at all. The cold is what causes the overwatering problem.
Let's just let that sink in. When the roots are just sitting there in cold, wet soil, they can't function. They can't pull up water, they can't get nutrients. Instead, they start to suffocate and decay. And that's a condition we call root rot, which is the real killer behind those yellowing, dying leaves.
So, with the main culprits identified, our detectives started offering up more techniques to really build a solid case. This is where we learn how to make sure this never, ever happens again.
So how can you tell for sure if the soil is actually dry? Forget guessing. The community has a super simple, foolproof method. Just stick your finger or even a wooden skewer deep down into the soil. If it comes out with wet soil clinging to it, step away from the watering can. The plant is not ready. But if it comes out clean and dry, okay, now it's time to water. It's really that simple. And the rest of the thread was just full of these other little gems of wisdom. One user asks that critical question, are you watering for the plant or are you watering for the calendar? Another points out that pothos are great communicators. They'll physically droop when they're thirsty. Others get even more technical, suggesting a better draining soil mix to prevent water from just sitting there in the first place. And for some, even a quick trip to the shower for some humidity can make all the difference. So, after weighing all the evidence and all that incredible expert testimony, the community clinic arrived at a final verdict, and, most importantly, a clear path to recovery for our leafy patient.
So, case closed. The culprit wasn't just overwatering, and it wasn't just the cold.
It was the deadly combination of the two. Too much water in the pot and a plant that was just too cold to do anything about it.
And here's the prescription, the recovery plan. First things first, get that plant away from the cold window. Second, put an immediate ban on watering until that soil is bone dry. Third, you got to accept that the yellow leaves are a lost cause, just pluck them off. And finally, you adopt the new rules for the future. Always check the soil first, and always remember that a plant's needs change with the seasons.
So the big takeaway here isn't just about how to save one poor pothos. It's a really powerful lesson in observation and being adaptable. It shows us that we need to treat our plants not like items on a to-do list, but as living things that are constantly responding to their environment. So the real question to ask yourself is this: is your plant care routine listening to the season, or is it just listening to the calendar?